Okay, folks, we're going to start looking at this little model that we created, and actually start talking about building cost into a wall system, basically. Now we built a little model here, and these are all just generic 8-inch walls. However, we might like to take a model like this and say, hey, if I was doing a cost estimate, maybe I could apply a square foot cost to the walls. Now the walls might be made up of several different components, but it's not unusual to just apply a square foot cost and come up with an overall cost for walls or roofs or whatever we're talking about. So anyway, we've already seen this before. I mean, these boxes over on the side, the properties box over here in the project browser, and we've taken a look at this box before. But if we go ahead and we click Edit Type, we'll see something called Type Properties. Now there are two types of properties that elements can have. There's what they call type properties that basically affects every type of unit that's within a family, and then there's what they call instance properties. But we'll focus on type properties, since those probably are the most common, I think you'd say. If we click on any of these walls, highlight one of them, and we go to the modify, in this case, since we're looking at walls tab, you'll notice over here right next to the modify button there's a property toggle that we can click on and click off. Again, that opens or closes this properties box. We typically want to leave that open. There's also another box right above it called type properties, and if we click on that, it opens up a new dialog box in the middle of the screen, which contains a lot of the stuff that we've already seen, but it contains a few other items that might be of interest to us. So on this, we can open this up. We can see we're dealing with this basic wall, this generic 8-inch wall. We can look down through a lot of these things, but you'll notice that one of the pieces of what they refer to as identity data that they have already built in to this generic 8-inch wall type is what they call cost. Okay? And you'll see that there's nothing down there next to cost. Okay? But we could enter something in. Go down there. We could enter something in there. We could enter maybe something like 100. And if we say OK, now we are changing the type property for cost for the generic 8-inch wall. Okay? So if we click, for instance, on this wall, we can go down, scroll down. Lo and behold, we'll see the $100, essentially, if that's the way we were doing it. If we click on another wall and go down to type properties again, we've got $100 there. Okay? So, again, a lot of these properties, these parameters that we deal with, are going to be referred to as type parameters, and if they are type properties, when we change a type property, it changes for every item that is made from that type. So we're dealing just with walls, this generic 8-inch wall. If we change this to some brick on metal stud wall now, that $100 doesn't carry over because it's just with that generic type. Okay? So, but anyway, we have a cost there. All right? That doesn't mean anything. We've just put a piece of data in there now. So we'll say OK, and we'll leave that alone. And again, you know, we just have our basic structure, you know, there with our little L-shaped wall unit. Okay? How can we build this in to, you know, something meaningful? If we go over to the View tab, we'll see there down at about the middle of the toolbar, there's a Schedules tab. And if we look at the Schedule tab and click on that, there's something called Material Takeoff. And that's what we're going to be using. So we can click on Material Takeoff. This is called New Material Takeoff. There's a bunch of stuff that we can take off. However, since we're dealing with walls, why don't we go down and we click on Walls. And now the name changes to Wall Material Takeoff. And we could change that name if we wanted to, but you know, for us right now, that's fine. And we'll hit OK. Now it comes up with a new screen. The new screen's called Material Takeoff Properties. You have a bunch of fields over here on the left-hand side, you know, that goes from area all the way down to width. Okay? What we're going to do is we're going to build a material takeoff table. And in that table, if you can imagine columns, we will populate this table with various columns. Now, we have all of these things that we could choose from. But let's keep it simple. All right? Why don't we populate it with family and type? All right? Since, you know, we could have structures, you know, made up of various families and various types of things within those families. So let's add that. Okay? Let me go down to material area. Because if I'm going to build a takeoff and a cost estimate, and it's based on walls, and I'm thinking about the square foot cost of walls, I think I'm going to need the area that that wall has. So I'll add that. And let me go down or up to cost. Okay? And I'll add that.
What's going to be the difference between cost and material cost?
We'll find out next week, but material cost, when you start saying material and you put the word material in front of it, you have the ability to go back into a material screen and actually start changing the various materials and materials cost around. So, for instance, right now we just have a generic wall. There's nothing in that wall. It's just 8 inches of wall. Okay? But next week we'll start looking at walls that have some composition to them. Brick, vapor barrier, studs, stuff like that. So when you get into material cost, you'll actually be able to say, hey, I'd like a square foot cost of the vapor barrier. I'd like a square foot cost of the brick. And so when you do a material cost, you can actually, when it gets to that point, you can actually refine the cost to that degree. Okay? So anyway, but the cost that we're talking about right now is just this cost that we had in the type properties box. So anyway, so what would be the formula, do you think, if I was going to develop a cost for a wall right now?
Length times unit cost?
Well, okay, this unit cost, we got cost, we're calling that cost, okay? And why length?
Length times height.
Well, how about area? Okay? So, how about material area times cost? Let's go to calculate a value. Let's put in a name, and let's call that name wall cost. Okay? We'll do a formula. You can leave the discipline as common. I mean, you have different ones there. Type is definitely number, you know, and the formula. Now, here's the thing with the formula. You gotta be careful because this is case sensitive. This is space sensitive. This is very sensitive here. So, for the formula, you got to have a formula from the things that you've selected. Well, our formula would be material colon space area with a capital A times the little asterisk for times cost capital C. Now here's the thing, it's not going to like that you're putting a number cost and you're multiplying it by an area that's square foot, because that's going to come up with square foot dollars, and it doesn't like that. So I'm going to have to say divide it by 1, and I'm going to have to say SF. So I can take out the unit of square feet.
Is there a space between the 1 and the SF?
I think it'll allow you to put, I'll put a space in there. I think it allows you to either have a space or not have a space. But other things, like for material area, you see a space in there, you got to keep a space.
Okay.
Okay, say okay. Say okay. Lo and behold, you come up with a little material takeoff schedule that has the cost. And it has all the stuff that we pulled into it. Family and type. You know, family and type, if I spread this out, basic wall was the family, generic 8-inch was the type. Material area, it's going through piece by piece. I had 6 pieces of wall there. It's showing you the square footage for each. That cost, that $100 or the 100.00, which was like a square foot cost, was just placed in there. And so it's taking that calculated formula and multiplying it out.